Welcome to the Caddo Convos, the podcast that explores the vibrant community of businesses thriving in Caddo Office Reimagined. We're here to shine a light on the incredible entrepreneurs and professionals who make the most of our private offices, co-working spaces, and day office rentals in the Dallas-Fort Worth suburbs. Join us as we share their stories, celebrate their successes, and dive into the benefits of working in a space that's close to home but offers so much more than working from home. Let's get started with today's conversation. Joining me today is Robb Rothrock of Rothrock Financial Group. Robb, awesome to have you here.
Yeah, awesome to be here.
So we met before, and it's about time we had this conversation to talk about your business.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, as exciting or unexciting as you can make a financial firm or an insurance firm sound, right?
Well, it's about people, though.
That's true.
You know, and people
That's
are exciting.
true.
Conversations are exciting, and helping people solve their problems is exciting. You get that feeling once you've got a problem solved and you solve a problem for your customers. I know you're both happy.
Yeah, that's true. It is all about people, and it's funny because the first time we met, I shared with you that the late Mark Friedman, Frito,
Yep.
we did a podcast and we did 44 episodes. And
Wow.
but when I first met him, he was asking me, well, you should think about doing a podcast for your business. And I was kind of like, yeah, who the heck wants to listen to a podcast about insurance? And
Right.
he's like, well, hold on, time out. It isn't going to, no one is the answer.
Right.
But it isn't about insurance.
Correct.
It's about people.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, and it turned out to be a whole lot of fun.
44 episodes later.
44 episodes later, and then unfortunately we recorded the
Lost
last
him.
one. He passed away 2 days later, and I actually heard about it on the ticket where he worked for a long, long time, and he wasn't there anymore. But
Right.
great guy. But hey, it was a shock, and that was about October of last year, I think.
Yeah, over a year ago
Yeah,
at
over
the
a
time
year
of this
ago now. It
recording.
didn't seem like it's that long ago.
Yeah.
We went to his service and everything. So
Yeah,
but,
that's a tragic loss. He was,
yeah.
he was in
was
the
a good
community,
guy.
very well known.
We had a
and
lot
liked
of
guy.
fun doing the show, as
Yeah.
it turned out. And it was something we were going to keep doing. So anyway, glad I met you. So
Yeah, same. I'm
we-
glad we're doing the
here
show,
we go.
especially
Right.
where it benefits. Again, your customers need to know about you. And
Yeah.
today we're talking about Rothrock Financial Group. And what customers do you serve, Rob?
Yeah. So how this kind of started is, for the longest time, my wife and I, well, really me first. I've been licensed as an insurance agent since 2003. Never in property casualty, always in life and health, and those are two different licenses.
Noted.
And then my wife became licensed. She's coming on 10 years now. But for a long time, I really focused on health insurance, then got into Medicare early, 2011, 2012, something like that, and very quickly realized that that's just one of many needs. A lot of the people that we would talk to about Medicare, which for those of you that don't know, that's insurance that you get when you're turning 65.
Okay.
And if you're still working, you can delay that. But people that are, a lot of people kind of retire around that age, maybe a couple years later, maybe a little bit earlier, just depending on their situation. But it became apparent that there was a lot more things on the table that were concerning to them about retirement, not just their health insurance.
Yeah.
So I got my securities license in 2014. And really started doing investment advising, and then realized, this really ties in well with, because one of the biggest worries for people that are retiring is, do I have enough money to, am I going to outlive my money?
Truth.
And,
Yep.
That's a real problem, especially if it can be mismanaged. Maybe they haven't saved enough. Maybe the market tanks right at the wrong time for them. Because really what it's all about is when we're working and accumulating assets, those assets, the ups and downs of the market, while are, might give you heartburn.
Yes, that
or
day.
worse.
You bet.
But at the end of the day, it always comes back eventually. And we're not needing that money right now.
Right.
So there's really no reason to panic. It's hard sometimes, but there's just kind of let it go. But when you're drawing money out of that account and you're no longer putting new money into that account, that's a double whammy.
Yep.
And so a big drop at the wrong time, coupled with now I need to pull money on a regular basis out of that account, can create a whole new set of problems. And so what we can kind of try to do is show people how can they reposition things to minimize that risk or even eliminate that risk and build them a base of income that they can be comfortable with going forward.
You answered a lot of questions right out of the gate, because I'm like you, I'm in my 50s.
Right.
And I'm looking ahead. I'm doing what I can to contribute to my retirement and get
Which
ahead.
is great, yeah.
But whenever the market does change, even with the quote unquote the time I think I have left, to build that whatever's going to cover me for the rest of whenever I do retire. It still gives me a little bit of heartburn. I've noticed lately it's a little bit, it's an election year, so things are always changing in election years, especially.
Absolutely.
So we've got to watch out with that. Let's talk about I'd say your average customer. I wouldn't say ideal. Everybody's different. So who's your average customer?
Well, that's tough because I have.
It sounds like you've kind of listed them in there.
Yeah, I mean, someone that is probably has at least an idea of when they might retire, and just because if someone's already retired, that doesn't mean we can't help them either.
Right.
But because for a long time we, my wife and I, first me, then her and I did Medicare, so we talked to a lot of people that were 64 years old.
Interesting.
That's the year before. That's where our marketing was targeted to. Those are the people that we met. So for that reason, and then a lot of kind of the early customers that or clients that we have now, we sort of met them there, so to speak. But the typical age might be somebody in their mid to late 50s, maybe in their early 60s. And it also depends on their situation. I mean, I have some clients that are retiring from the military. Sometimes they're retiring a little bit younger, because things have worked out that way for them.
Right.
So it's really kind of there's no exact profile. It's really somebody that is kind of like, okay, I know that I'm going to retire in the next 3 to 5 years. Let's just put that, say that out there, or sooner. And how do I make sure that I have a comfortable retirement, do the things that I want? And everybody has different goals.
True.
So one of the first questions I'll ask back is, well, once I kind of find out what they have in savings, maybe what they're still contributing, one of the questions is well, how do you see the purpose what's the purpose of your money? What do you want your money to do?
That's a good
Some
question.
people want to leave a legacy.
Yeah.
Some don't.
Right.
I mean, some people are like, hey, my kids are fine. I've given them so much. I really don't care.
This time's for me.
This is all for me.
Yeah.
So is this a plan for living or is this a plan for dying? And I have to say I stole that from a mentor. That's not mine. So if you hear this, thank you. But
pay it forward.
Right.
Yep.
But really that's kind of an important thing because you can design a plan that'll spread out income for a longer period of time, but it might not give a surplus. Some people want to retire and go travel for a year or two, or longer, or just really enjoy it. So it's really about, what do you want to do?
Yeah. What are your goals?
What are your goals? What's important to you? And that's really the main thing, is I want to find out, what do you want?
Right. It's interesting because it's harder to reach the younger people to have these conversations, and the best time is like planting a tree. Right, 20 years ago was a great time to plant a tree.
True,
right?
The next best time is today.
Right now, yeah.
Right.
So if you're listening to this podcast, I would say the ideal customer for Robb is someone who saw the title of this podcast, and in his insurance and whatnot. And if that's something that is on your mind, as in you have heartburn about what am I going to do for the rest of my life at any age, I'd say in your 30s.
That's true.
If you're that far ahead, God bless you. You're doing great. If you're thinking about your retirement in your 30s. But anyone like myself, especially, I imagine your average people are people like me who are, I think and I hope, I have 15, 20 years. I love what I do. So maybe I'll extend that, but I definitely want to be like, I have family, I have kids. I want to plan for legacy, likely,
Right.
I'm hoping they can get out there and do some great things, but I feel like I fit in that area. You mentioned common questions. Like what's a common question? Let's say we've worked a little bit. You've kind of got me covered from we have a plan, right? What's the next phase?
One of the things I'm going to want to do first, obviously, the first time I'll talk to somebody, let me walk you through that.
That's great.
How does this
beginning.
evolve? The first meeting that I have with somebody, it's really just all about them. Obviously, they have to be comfortable with me, but it's not about me. It's about them.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to find out first, why did you agree to meet with me?
Good
and
question.
Tell me what's on your mind. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to listen and take notes. Now, eventually, I do want to find out what's the makeup of their, do they have an IRA? Okay, about how much is in that IRA? I don't need statements. Just give me a ballpark. Are you making contributions to your 401k? Do you have a balance in your 401k? Do you have any life insurance? Now, I don't come right out with all that.
Sure.
I'm not going to bombard somebody with those questions because I wouldn't want that. But as we start to have a conversation, I just need to get a general picture of kind of where they're at today. And another thing is what is their income? Doesn't have to be exact, but give me an idea.
Ballpark it.
And some people, if they're pretty close to retirement, I may even ask him, what do you anticipate your monthly expenses to be once you're retired?
Right.
Is there a mortgage that's going to be paid off in 5 years? Is it already paid off? Things like that. So really, I do kind of want to build a financial profile on that individual or that couple, and try to understand that. And as that's happening, I can start thinking, sometimes I can start seeing, hey, there's some ways I can help. And sometimes I can start seeing that maybe I can't help this person. And so, and after that first meeting, really it's kind of like, okay, I have a pretty good idea. Let's have a second meeting. And at that meeting, let's maybe they do bring statements that time, or fill out a risk profile that I can kind of see what's their risk tolerance, and get a really, really good, maybe fill in some of the holes of the fact finding, so to speak, that we did in the first meeting, because that's really more of an informal conversation. But we really want to kind of nail those things down in the second meeting. And maybe at that meeting, maybe at the third meeting is when I'm going to come back. If I see a way to improve their situation, or now that I understand their goals, because we've really had a good conversation about that, I can start to put together a plan that I can present to them on how it might meet those goals. And then if they like that, we can talk about implementation.
You said something that's really
so
interesting.
So I'll typically have 3 or 4 meetings before we do anything.
You have to get to know each other.
Absolutely.
And know their profile. They can come with you to the first meeting with all of that answered in theory, but you have to get to know them. It's almost
really,
like dating. You can bring something to the table, but
I want to move at their speed.
Yeah.
Mine doesn't matter.
Right.
It's not about that. It's about how fast or how slow do they want to go, and that's also important.
Yeah, that's terrific.
If right now, hey, it's not unusual, especially right now, hey, let's just get through the holidays.
Right.
Well, I'm kind of that way now too. I mean, it's Christmas is next week. So let's get through the holidays, and then New Year's is right behind it. That's fine. Next year we'll get here soon enough.
It'll be here. Yeah.
And we can pick back up.
It's coming at us faster than we can blink. You mentioned something interesting about if you can't help them. What would be a disqualifier? I mean, obviously, they may just decide the fit isn't right, or they're for whatever.
I can give you a couple examples. So I will occasionally run into people that have self-managed their money for a long time.
Yeah.
They don't want to change that. And you know what?
We fear change. We've
talked
about this.
For example, one of the things that I do offer is manage money through advisory services. So another thing we can do is look at pairing that with insurance products, like possibly an annuity, which can be a dirty word because it's got some negative connotations. I can tell you that in the right situation, it can be absolutely the right recommendation. But there's a lot of let me put it this way: a lot of products that are a lot of times people sold the wrong product when it comes to annuity. I run into that all the time.
Interesting.
So, but the right product, that's why me understanding exactly what the situation is imperative before I ever make any recommendation. But someone that doesn't want, maybe just wants to continue to self-manage, doesn't want to pay $1 in fees for that, fine. That's you go ahead and continue on that road. Now that person probably isn't going to agree to a second meeting. The second one would be, if there's just not enough assets there to work with, and I can't give a ballpark on that because
everybody's really different. Their needs are different. Yeah.
But if someone's just kind of getting started out, or really just hadn't, how much? What can I retire on $100,000? No.
Yeah.
So, and
they need more income,
and again, you might have a husband and a wife that have vastly different views of their retirement.
That's a good point.
Now that I've run into that a couple times.
There's a little bit of couples therapy.
If they're not in agreement, I'm really not going to
tricky.
I don't really want to get in the middle of that.
Yeah. They recommend a therapist and have them come back later.
That may not be a good fit for any of us.
Right.
So things like that.
Interesting.
Really,
yeah. And it absolutely makes sense. And one of the things I liked when you and I first sat down, when we first met, and I can attest to Rob, is we just had a conversation. And it was just like we're having now. It was just comfortable. We're just two people talking, trying to understand the needs of the situation and how we can help each other. I think that's what you do best from my vantage point is understanding needs and talking.
Because you don't get very far if you don't.
Right. Fair. Very personable.
Yeah.
I like that about you, Rob. And so like things like annuities, I know that all the questions that I have as a person who is a complete layman, other than, at my age, we manage our accounts, I feel like okay. Mm-hmm. But I imagine a lot of people say the same things, like, I think I'm on top of it and whatnot. But that's where you can help. But understanding things like the annuity products, you spend some time there.
I can give you a specific example if you want.
I would like to hear it, yeah.
This is you've probably heard of someone that has a 60-40 or a 70-30 portfolio, meaning that 60% equities and 40% fixed income, which might be different types of bonds or things like that, or 70-30. And as people age, get closer to retirement or whatever, all the same thing really. Sometimes if someone's 80% equities and 20% quote unquote fixed income or safe investments, bonds or bond alternatives, or maybe in cash, and maybe they go from 80-20 equities to 70-30 equities to 60-40 equities. And so you can Google this and find such put people in a box advice. Oh, if you're age 60, you should be 60-40. Okay, all right, let's unpack that. So what's interesting though is over the last year, the people are pretty happy, whether they're 60-40 split or 70-30 split or whatever, they're up. I mean, the S&P 500 is up over 30% in the last year. Well, yesterday took quite a big haircut.
Like we said, the heartburn days, they're going to happen.
Right. Yeah. And so, but someone might be up, hey, I'm up 18%. I'm pretty happy. Okay, well, the S&P's up 30. Well, but I'm fine with 18, so I don't really want to change anything. What's interesting is this is where if I can have a look at their statement, and this happened not too long ago. So it was about $1 million, right? And, roughly 60% equities, 40% bonds, and the individual had made 16, 17% in the last 12 months. Very happy. They're very happy.
Sure, that's good.
But when I really analyzed the holdings within that portfolio on a one-on-one basis, there were quite a few that hadn't done much, especially on the fixed income side, so to speak. So it's kind of like, all right, what if you kept your 60 as is, but we repositioned the 40, and that's where there are some annuity products where you're going to make 5, 6, 6.5%, versus maybe have averaged 1 to 1.5%.
Right. Wow.
And so I can show them, what if this is a bond alternative? What if that's where an annuity can be a bond alternative, versus, and maybe not even paying any fees on that portion where they probably were.
Yeah.
So, which is probably another 1 or 1.5%. So I can show with math, not with theory, that what if you were able to get another 4 or 5% on 40% of your portfolio with no risk?
Right. Here's what that looks like.
Here's what that looks like.
That's exciting.
So those are some of the things that we can do.
We love our money making money.
Right.
That's wonderful.
And because people, again, they tend to look at the whole thing, and not. And this is where I can go with them. And not all my clients are here. We'll do this on a Zoom, and they're in other states sometimes, and we'll go one by one. Hey, let's look at this mutual fund, and let's look at the history in that. And if it's a bond fund, it might have a 10-year history, which made 1.5% on average.
Wow.
Now it had a good 20. 2 years ago was great.
Yeah,
or last year really, when rates started coming down, those did well. But that's kind of in a vacuum.
Those are dead years, basically. You just weren't making much money on those.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
so we can show people how right there. Now, the other thing I've seen is I'll see annuities that people have had. Well, this didn't do very well. Turns out they were sold the wrong product.
Yeah.
They were sold one that didn't meet their needs. They didn't need all the features and all the costs, all the fees that were associated with that product, and they didn't really understand to begin with. But those are commission-based products. So as an investment advisor, I have a fiduciary duty to my clients. But unfortunately, with annuities, there's a whole lot of them that are sold with insurance-only agents. Some of them aren't excellent. I'm not saying that. There are some true. They act that way anyway, but more often than not, I do see there's a lot to learn about those type of products, and I feel like I'm an expert on that. So
that's terrific.
Right.
Well, it's kind of like any expert is going to sit down with you. I'm saying in any industry, like someone, if you're talking like I'm talking to you now, if you're talking to an expert, they're going to look at everything. Let's say car. It's like your car. Sitting out with a car expert, they're going to say, "Well, this isn't running optimally, and this is why you like getting better gas mileage." Of course, I do. Your car's performance is at this. You should be here, and you're not. And it's waste. You're wasting money. You're wasting your time and things like that. And it sounds like you can dissect their entire portfolio.
And
and
another
fix
one.
That.
There's going to be advisors that listen to this that are going to get mad at me for what I'm going to say next. And you know what? Oh well.
Yeah.
And I know, because that's part of my business as well, is fee-based advisement. But typically, the typical financial advisor hates annuities.
Why so?
Well, it's not for what reasons that you might think.
Okay.
Because
intrigued.
the client is their annuity.
Oh.
As soon as that goes away, they're not making fees on that percentage of the money anymore.
Interesting.
That's.
Okay.
I mean, But I mean, how often has your advisor called you and said sell? When the market's down, don't sell. When the market's up, don't sell.
Right.
Never.
Because they're seeing that coming back to them.
I'm not saying, yeah, but I mean, I'm simplifying.
Well,
things
we're
a
talking
bit.
about what motivates people,
But-
right? That's their motivation for that
right.
particular
But there
product.
there is that. I mean, the advisors hate to see that money go out into an annuity because they're making fees on less.
Right. Their income
You know,
goes down.
If you've heard that and that's you and you don't like it, oh well.
Yeah.
Call me and tell me.
Fix it and do something different.
Right.
Rob, you chose Caddo Office Reimagined as the place to host
I
your
love it.
business. Tell me why.
Yeah. So we first of all, I love the buildings. They're unique. They're cool. They're different. They're bright, and it's just having the conference rooms are first rate. So
they are.
whenever if we're not doing a virtual meeting, we're meeting a client. We have that office space in the conference rooms. The fact that we can use multiple locations. For a while, and she'll probably want to do more of these Medicare meetings. We can do them in Flower Mound area and then tell people we can meet them in Flower Mound location, or we've done them in Prosper and tell them we can meet at the Prosper location. So, and everybody that I've ever met that's worked at Caddo, super, super friendly. I love the people that we've met here and the people that I've met that lease here. So there's no downside. Yeah. It's a great place to go. I think for what we pay, we get really good value out of it. And, that's about it, but I do enjoy it. And we've been here now probably 3 years now, maybe.
About that,
yeah.
Great.
No plans on changing.
Great. So, Rob, we've had a great conversation. People who are listening and people out there in the world, they want to know how to reach you. What's the best way?
So you can call me at 972-468-9294. You can also text that number again, 972-468-9294. And you can email me at robb@rothrockfg.com. ROTH, F as in Frank, G as in good.com.
Nice. And that'll be in the show notes. So if whichever platform you're seeing or hearing this, just scroll down and Rob's contact info is there.
Yeah, I do have a parting thought though. So the name of the company, Rothrock Financial Group. So who's the group? And I think this is kind of interesting. As an independent agent and as an investment advisor, I have experts in both managed money portfolio managers and the annuity space on both sides of that. And I've got absolute experts with decades of experience that we can run cases by. It's not just me. So the client might just think it's me. Right. But I can take a complex situation to a very experienced team and get an elite feedback from experts in the industry. So I have that on both sides. Right. And when it comes to portfolio management, I mean, we use portfolio managers through a company called Morningstar. We're the liaison. They only work with investment advisors. They don't work directly with the public. But through people like me, they can gain access to that. I mean, you've got people that can expertly manage money. I'm not a huge fan of mutual funds, but we have a lot of straight equity portfolios where you're bypassing that mutual fund fee, which often impedes performance. Okay. And so I'm a big fan of just a straight equity basket of investments on that side, on that side of the house. And obviously you can have a different mix with a different purpose, dividends, growth, small cap, whatever, all those things. But yeah, so there are a lot of people that back me up.
Terrific. So it's the group, it's the team, and
absolutely
a wealth of knowledge there.
Yep. You bet.
Excellent. Well, Rob, I really enjoyed this conversation with you today.
Me too. It's fun. It's great.
Thank you for joining us today on the Caddo Convos podcast. A huge shout out to our incredible network of members for making our community vibrant and supportive. If you're looking to boost your productivity and reduce the isolation of working from home, consider joining us at Caddo Office Reimagined. Our spaces are designed to meet your evolving needs, support remote work, and foster a sense of community that's hard to find at home. Whether you're a startup aiming for growth, a freelancer seeking a professional setting, or a company looking to optimize resources, Caddo offers a perfect blend of flexibility and innovation. By joining us, you'll be a part of a dynamic business ecosystem that helps you thrive. For more information, visit caddooffices.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Caddo Convos.